Joe here. Get something in the can because you gotta have that before you can publish it. And this is kind of a funny moment in which I kind of step out of a closet from private to public. And that was a kind of issue for me as a youngster. Uh, do I want to show myself that much or not? And as a youngster, that was well, I'll tell you a story. And there's it's maybe kind of funky, interesting, and fun and insightful. Uh, Hi, my name is Joseph Francis Dynahan Thompson, and I live in Vancouver. And I'm this is in front, kind of uh, hi, remember me from long ago to someone kind of famous. And we knew each other long ago, and of course, I think you'll remember me. Um, but it takes some talking. Kind of shy and kind of complicated. So, howdy, Jimmy Pattison. How you doing? Long time no see. It's Joe here, uh, the kid from Little Mountain, 1962. Uh, the Easter Seal child at the a kind of it was a first um opening of the Bay Shore's kind of upper crust social scene events, benefits, charity coordination. In other words, kind of Vancouver coming together in order to um, be a benefit to others and get to know each other. And it was I was in grade two. I was 7 years old, and I was cute as a button. And arthritis. Uh, at seven, I had had 16 operations, and then two other operations, and then uh, right after we got to know one another, I was back in the hospital again. So this little story has some unpleasant aspects. Uh, and not in any way splashing on some of the people involved. It's just that life has its own ways of unfolding, and sometimes that's the way it goes, you know? Uh, so, gee, 7 year old, and I'd caught the eye of those around me um, for doing something that actually precedes my clear memory, but includes my visceral memory. In other words, it's like I don't maybe not remember all the details, but I remember how it felt in motion, like how you remember how a swing feels when you're a toddler. That kind of a memory. In other words, some of this stuff goes back to pre not quite pre-verbal, but kind of deep level. Anyway, so grade two, uh, Easter holiday upcoming and getting prepped and an Easter seal child. That's and I met Mrs. Linda Hunt, I think at the time, and later on she introduced me to Camp Chehalis, kind of as an outgrowth of the earlier get together. So even though there were difficulties along the way, there were also major benefits. So equanimity is possible. Uh, gee, among other things, currently I'm a photographer, a chatterbox. I've been building a bit of a website. Um, I'm a bit of an omnivore, multifaceted interest. Uh, um, and a part of the field I'm going for is Eric Hoffer, the longshoreman philosopher of San Francisco. He was an odd bird. and picked up some books and kind of found himself and started collecting little bits of truth. And gee, things grew. And while an oddball, he's kind of a nifty character to know. And actually, he saved my life and helped me um, restabilize after some traumatic and cultish experiences. In other words, I've had a complicated life, and going back to being that toddler. Might I read you a few notes? Just gotten it back to maybe refresh the memory. Um, let's see, the photo details and context, the subjects, the image. Oh, this is about the picture in the province newspaper as a promotion for the fundraising event at the Bay Shore and at other venues, in which there were multiple appearances, and there were also rehearsal and planning get-togethers. So it was a whole choreography of events. And uh, I remember being up by at the Baines shop used to be at the Mount Pleasant angle of Kingsway and Main, right by the Mount Pleasant clock. That little curved shop. I remember posing with the chocolates, which were utterly magnificent and complicated and art. Um, they're in the province photograph, and I'll find that before the next hunk of video comes along, because I think that I should uh, approach this in small bites, like 10, 15 minutes of chatterbox and context and stuff, and one step at a time because I'm disabled and one step at a time, next step first. If this runs long, I'll cut it, chunk it, put it up, and get on to the next step. Because while I have some production values and skills, I'm amateur hour to the pros. Actually, I'm quite amazed to be here at all. Uh, so, oh, the egg. They were photographed with a massive handcrafted chocolate egg donated by Baines Chocolates, a prominent local confectionery of the area. The purpose. This photo was part of a publicity blitz in the province to drive donations for the campaign, which often peaked with a fundraiser luncheon at the Bay Shore Inn. Okay, and so, yeah, Jimmy Pattison and probably oodles of other people might remember me sufficiently from even that little bit. And it was an extraordinary experience, but turned rather dark in the latter parts, um, because uh, it was a great success. And Mr. Patterson said, "Call me when you grow up." Um, and for some reason, I haven't been able to do that until now. And I'm sorry, I don't know everything, but I'm here now. And it's almost exactly 64 years, a chessboard, 8 by 8. And I made it to 71. And Jimmy Pattison, hey, 97 and happy, vivacious, engaging, um, fun. Wow. And as for me, oh, I've had multiple miseries in several health vectors. Um, but I'm patient and studious. I look around and explore and try to find the next right thing. And whether it's meds, as in pills, or meds and meditation. Um, and funnily enough, I've managed to find a way to climb out of several pits of misery into a startlingly joyous and competent seniority. I've been keto about over 5 years now. Um, I find sugar and carbs uh, really ill-suited to this metabolism. Um, it brings on that, the surge of energy and the fall off and the cravings after. Um, for this metabolism, that incites a um, kind of addiction response on low-grade madness. And also, the surge and fall is a mini manic depression. And those surges and falls that people are living with each day to day, they add up to sugar burns dirty, fats burn clean. Sugars burn quick, fats burn slow. And they feel different in the body. Is a hybrid. Not just that, there's a whole nother gear called fasting, which opens up autophagy. Wow. And so I've been exploring modalities and insights, and I've been keto 5 years, occasionally hard keto, and intermittent fasting is easy. Longer range fasting takes practice and study and multiple teachers. Ah, and that means visiting with Hippocrates, and that means visiting with Hippocrates' boss, the doctor inside. And that's a long and patient reflection because we live amidst systems and we stand upon foundations which we seldom give the attention they deserve. And we're lucky to be alive each day. And that's a whole lot to say to an old friend uh, who's a whole bunch older than me. And I was kind of thinking maybe it's time to start planning to wind down, but the vigor and joy that you're displaying is an invitation to maybe try to fill out these years. 71, 97, 26, 26. And this is 26, which is 62 backwards. Transposition errors are a signal to accountants of a simple and frequent error, which often results in a difference, which is divisible by 9. And it's one of those little accounting keys that is a gift of the trade. And so I noticed numbers like that, and gosh, there might be a whole 26 years in front of me that might be useful and joyous, and that's like a whole nother generation of time is within this life's possible scope. Wow, what, gee, a day might change a point of view. Um, okay, running along in several vectors, and I want to wrap up the early part with a bit of a bad ending, and the thing is it was all successful until sometime after, and coming home from church. Oh, living in relative poverty and in the Little Mountain Project, 5040 Ontario Street. Gee, still remember the address when I was 7. A row house in the project, and 3 or 4 steps at the front porch, and 1 set of steps to the bedroom and the bathroom. Stairs and arthritis uh, are a life factor, I notice. So, some of the family took umbrage at the amount of attention that I was getting, and that can be fractious. Coming home from church, mass, St. Andrews, to the Little Mountain Project uh, with my older brother. And there was a bump. Uh, you like to drive out in the country and watch the wind caress whatever the crop in the field is. And you like exploring, and I do too. But not some, I don't do so much as you, but you probably paused at Head Smashed In Buffalo Gap in Alberta, almost Saskatchewan. Um, I call this little incident face smashed in bicycle bump, and it was by the graveyard at um, is it St. Albert, between 41st and 37th. Uh, my brother. Hmm. Sometimes there's a line from Owen Meany, Simon Birch. They were so fond of the sounds of his screams, and sometimes, even worse, they were so fond of the sounds of his silences. Grim stuff. Um, an excess of attention was seen as being uppity, which needed a put down. So an accident and a hospitalization and face smashed in bicycle bump. Ah, well, it also included a broken leg. Um, but treating the leg is one thing, treating the face was another, and it was kind of more than a month of a daily look in the mirror at my broken face healing. And in the course of that experience, I was, maybe I don't want to be famous, kind of thing. Sort of sad. And I don't know what you and Mom may have discussed. Oh, you probably remember Mary and Joseph from Little Mountain. And she may have been rather heated with you. And she may even have left some messages for me with you. And wouldn't that be of interest? Um, but actually, I haven't even mentioned uh, what sparks the call is that I'm a photographer. The hospital's beautiful. Gee, what, $75 million donated to a project, 1.5 billion, and maybe going 2.3 billion, and coordinating so many people and motives and economies of scale. That's wondrous. Um, I barely know anything, but I'm a photographer, and I I was actually looking for this backdrop to share with you because it's very pretty. Your work is kind of magnificent. Um, Maybe I should say our works, because collaboration is a great part of joy. Um, and it's about to reopen or it's about to move. And because of my experiences with, I research Hippocrates and read what he said. And I ask doctors, have you ever fasted? And many of them are clueless. Um, but now that autophagy is generating Nobels and the people are connecting autophagy to Hippocrates' doctrine side, it opens up access to symbiosis, integration with foundations and helpers. Uh, Symbiosis is something that is actively engaging with us all the time and inviting us to also participate. And I've got some suggestions along those lines, and I'll get into them soon. Uh, but I got to get up one piece at a time for clarity and to keep it in the scope that I can manage. Because if I go too long, I'll accrue too many errors for me to be able to feel at ease with what I'm saying. So, kind of like that. I'm just feeling my way along one step at a time. And what's the next right step? Um, but I want to participate in the transfer of the tree of Hippocrates from the old campus to the new one. And it's from the seed of that tree goes back to the island of Kos, where Hippocrates taught. And the Asiatic plane tree species. I'm a bit of a tree fetishist as well as photography and oodles of other trees. The plane tree of Asia was well, was across the park from a North American plane tree in the garden in the South Bank in London. And they cross-pollinated the North American plane to the Hippocrates plane. And in that garden was hybrid the London plane. And the British Empire actually used the London plane as a signal of its community's embrace. Kind of all around the world, you'll find the London plane. What's the name of that garden? Jubilee? No. Anyways, so the London plane significance, but the London plane has connection to Hippocrates plane, and that's connected to the plane tree on Burrard Street that is coming to Station Street. And all this is kind of a funky dance that invites my participation. So I'd like to be a part of that. And the other invitation to come out of the closet and say, hey, is that I might be in peril of losing this window. In other words, my apartment. I live kitty corner to the Ivanhoe. In Science World, and I've got the seawall and the SkyTrain and its wheels. Wow, I'm wealthier than most people in ways that to to mention the depth of my appreciation would be take me quite a while. So many thank yous. So many thank you. and may I try to make myself useful. Uh, oh, the dust up around occupancy may be an effect of the transition of significance from one neighborhood to another. The plane tree is coming about 6 kilometers on its upcoming journey. Um, Along with that is what 5,000 jobs and uh, in and outs for 10,000 patients, um, in ambulances and oodles of stuff. And all that takes people and money and density and intensity and gimme priority juggling and all that kind of stuff. And a a disabled senior pensioner in a plum perch, maybe eased out elsewhere to make room for fresh priorities. Kind of that scene. And I'm asking for a bit of a check-in that, uh, oh, it's that the intercom and disabled access for my building is currently not functioning. And that might be intentional, as the building has indicated to me that we have observed your difficulties and perhaps you would like to ask for a transfer elsewhere. Do you notice the legal precision of those parameters? Um, and I'm uncomfortable and I'm outgunned. So maybe I have friends to say hey to. And hey boo is one of my favorite expressions, which I may quietly include hey scout, hey dill, you know, a trio of kind of friends. But hey boo is a great line and it communicates a whole bunch. I don't much care for Hey Joe because that's a very famous line from Hendrix, another local Jimmy. You go Jimmy and he goes Jimi. And he not only lurks the neighborhood as well, he hangs out in Hogan's Alley and elsewhere, and his brilliance is delightful. But some of his stuff is quite dark, and I don't like to think of myself as lugging a gun around, you know? Ain't my favorite role. And so, as opposed to Hey Joe, I don't know what the preference might turn out to be, but I'm just kind of casual and would like to stick around a while and maybe make myself useful. And oh, the jostlings of these difficulties. The chair used to be parked across the room, charging, and in the morning I couldn't reach it. These difficulties, I've insisted that it be charged directly by the bed, and I can transition on my own. And that's with some practice even easier than doing it sometimes with carrots. I've been hospitaling since before I was 2. So I can do a transition to a chair more gracefully than, and I know what a brace point is. And anyway, I'm this chatterbox mode. These difficulties have brought forth fresh abilities through perseverance and intention. And I, the charge chair is going into the shop because not only is it needs repair because it's getting sick and dangerous. And that actually kind of sparked this call because along with collecting videos for how wheelie people get in and out of my building, which I've got to send to my building properly request. There was an incident last week on the SkyTrain, April 22nd, Earth Day. Early lunchtime, about 12:10, the Dunsmuir lower platform at Granville, eastbound, heading to Burnaby to the audiology appointment. The transfer to the SkyTrain was problematic. The differential was 2 inches I can do, 2.5 gets risky, 3 is prohibitive. You know, I check things out. I tried, it was dangerous. I thought, should I try again? Ain't worth the risk. Backed off. And there was a guy on a bench, and I joined him for a commentary and said, it's sometimes the SkyTrain's like a bad toilet transfer. Um, yeah, I got needs, but if it comes to a choice between having a shitty day and having a fall and a break, I prefer having a shitty day. And I said something along those lines to the guy on the seat, and he laughed and he said, "You got that right." And and we got to chatting, and his name was Jim, and it was a moment. And you can see it on the video if you want to look it up. I've asked the SkyTrain control, while I am asking the SkyTrain control for 3 different moments in that trip in which interactions between a wheelchair and the SkyTrain, an asset worth $3 to $5 billion and growing, well, and a $20,000 wheelchair, and an old kid who may be quite valuable. Disabled people sometimes have other abilities in a kind of balance for the losses involved. And I sometimes explore extra abilities. And hey, isn't saying a hey to you a kind of big one? And sorry to be so scattershot. I attempt to approach clarity, but sometimes the through point of the laundry line takes practice too. Anyways, the new hospital looks gorgeous. There's so much to learn, and um, maybe a moment from oh, uh, a proper hey, talking with that guy on the platform under Dunsmuir, the tunnel built by railroaders who'd tunneled through the mountains. Our little garnish of the Pacific Rail. In that tunnel, while we're chatting, I'm telling him I should really call up Jim Pattison and and one of the billboards across the tracks shifted into just Pattison, kind of brilliantly glowing, just sitting there. And we both turned to that and kind of laughed. And it's kind of a real invitation from the universe to really say, hey, and there's a way, uh, gee, little poem. Um, oh, how to find just a sec. Uh, oh, let's see. I was gonna look up the lyrics, uh, but I might not have them quite memorized. Uh, Zoom's not giving me the pause record button readily. Still glitches in the way. So sweep that doubt aside and quote it from memory. There's a song by Sean Phillips, and it's called What's Happening, Jim? And in the midst of numerous severe difficulties at John Oliver um, in late adolescence, grade 11, grade 12, uh, some people invited me to listen to music with them. And one of them was What's Happening, Jim? And I never forgot it because it's about noticing your point of view and what you're looking at and how that might be affecting your capacity for suffering and joy. In other words, perhaps your situation contains some levers of self control, and that can be very helpful. So here's me just off the top of my head, many years back. What's happening, Jim, begins with a soft whisper and it rises to a surge and it goes into an area, a voice in flight, uh, in glory. And it's extraordinary. So, first line, I hear voices calling me. And it picks up, won't you take me to a day in law where the sun keeps shining through the snow and you're looking at me with the eyes of someone loved or loving. In this world of steel, in this world of clowns, you don't know where you stand right now. And the change is driving you right out of your mind. But don't you see the green on the mountainside? Don't you feel the love that you fight inside, like a rock that breaks, that falls into the sea? It's falling. And old Jim Gregan, he's singing that song, playing that guitar all day long, bringing it back to where it's coming from. He's calling. I think I got it right. I might have stumbled and missed a line, but it's kind of beautiful. And that's what the non-smear tunnel conversation invited me to say hey with, hey Jim, what's happening? Remember me? Want to say, have a coffee and walk around the neighborhood and maybe chat about stuff. And ain't that funny? 26, 62. Um, Maybe a bit of enough for now for a piece. Uh, as in, I'm more arty than formal, and that might look awkward, but it's what I have at the moment. And here, great to meet you. Be well. Ciao.